Hi everybody, this is Kristen with Hooks, Books, and Wanderlust, and today I'm here to show you how to crochet my Alpine Dreams stitch pattern that is featured in both my Alpine Dreams beanie and my Alpine Dreams cowl. Those patterns can be found for free on my blog, and I will link them in the description box below for you. So this stitch pattern was inspired by a trip that my husband and I took to Glacier National Park, specifically to it was specifically inspired by a morning that we spent driving up to Logan's Pass. The clouds that day had descended on the mountains, and with the trees and the whole vista, it was absolutely stunning. I do share a picture of that on my blog. If you click on the beanie pattern below, that will take you to the blog post for it, and you'll see some of the background story on the inspiration for this piece. So if you want to see more about that, then you can check that out, as well as my trip to Glacier National Park, which I will link that for you in case you're interested as well. It was fantastic. Highly recommend it. So when I got home, I wanted to design a crochet piece that was going to remind me of that trip and that time. And I came up with an idea of doing these nested puffy clusters. They're not a cluster stitch, they're not a puff stitch, and it's not actually an alpine stitch, but they are nested like it. But it's a 3-round repeat that will create bottoms, a tops and a bottoms, and then a tops to make 2 like visual rounds of these puffy clusters that are nested. And it is an intermediate skill level stitch pattern. I use front post double crochets and double crochet 5-togethers to create this texture. So if you're unfamiliar with those special stitches, I have more in-depth tutorials on my channel that I will link those for you in the description below as well. But you will need a stitch multiple of 4 stitches. If you're following along with either of the patterns, then that stuff is explained there as well. But yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. So we are ready to get started. As I mentioned, this does require a stitch multiple of 4 stitches. So I am starting off with a round of double crochet. I've got 32 double crochets that I've worked. Actually, I used a foundation double crochet, which I can link that below if you're interested in that as well. I have a full tutorial on that. So I've joined them at the top with a slip stitch, and I'm going to start our 3-round repeat with the first round, which will get us the bottom half of the first visual round of those cluster puffs, okay? So we are going to start with a chain 2, and you're going to double crochet in the first stitch. The chain stitches at the beginning of rounds do not count as a stitch. So when you double crochet for your first stitch, you're going to go into the stitch at the very base of that chain 2 and just double crochet. And then you're going to skip 1. You'll skip this next stitch. You're going to work 5 front post double crochets around the next one. So I'm going to go through this rather quickly. As I mentioned before, I do have a more detailed tutorial for the front post double crochet that I've linked for you below. So if you need something that's slowed down, a little bit more explained, definitely check that out. So 5 front post double crochets around the next stitch. So we've skipped 1, and then we're going to work around the following stitch. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you're going to skip 1 again. Now, one thing to note is that this gets rather bulky, and sometimes it can obscure the stitch that you need to skip. So make sure when you skip one here that you're not skipping the wrong one, okay? So pull that back a little bit. You see where your post is that you've worked around. This next post, find the top of that stitch. You're skipping that one, okay? Then you're going to double crochet into the next stitch and start your repeat all over again. Okay, you're not chaining one in here. This cluster here, the bottom of this cluster, is going to occupy the stitch space of essentially 3 stitches. So that's why we have our double crochet, and then our 5 front post doubles will take up 4 spaces total, if that makes sense. Okay, so now we're just going to do the same thing over. I've got my first double crochet. I'm going to skip 1, and then I'm going to front post double 5 times around the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip 1, double crochet next. And we're just going to keep going all the way around in the same manner. Skip 1, 5 front post doubles. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip 1, double crochet into the next. So keep going just like that all the way around. When you get to the end of your round, you're going to slip stitch to the top of your very first double crochet of the round to join. And I will meet you back here for the second round. All right, so I have just finished round 1 of our 3-round repeat. And a couple of things to note before we move on to round 2. You're going to notice that there are some gaps here, and don't worry, those are not going to show once we finish working our stitch pattern, okay? So those will not be there. Also, I think it's important to count your stitches. If you don't have the correct amount, then it's going to throw you off in the following rounds. So if you have a stitch multiple of 4, then all you need to do is take your total stitches that you started with in your foundation round and divide that by 4. And then that will give you the number of clusters that you have. So I told you beforehand, I started with 32 double crochets in my foundation round. So 32 divided by 4 is 8, and that means I have 8 of these clusters, 8 double crochets standing between each cluster. So then that's a quick visual count. Obviously easy to count 5, like 1, 2, 3, these clusters, and make sure that you have the correct number. But then you're also going to want to go back through and make sure that each of those clusters has 5 in it. I know from experience that sometimes it's easy to get into the zone while you're crocheting and then just completely zone out. And before you know it, you've got 6 stitches instead of 5 or 4 instead of 5. So make sure each of your little clusters here has 5 double crochets, front post double crochets worked, okay? So once you have verified that, it's okay to go ahead and start round 2. So for round 2, again, we're going to start with a chain 2. And this is going to be your most yarn eatery round, yarn hungry round. Let's call it a yarn hungry round, because you're going to be creating bottoms around the double crochets from the previous round, but you're also going to be putting tops on all of your little clusters puffs here that we've got going. So to get started, we are going to start out with 5 front post double crochets around the double crochet from the previous round here. So 1, whoops, I split my yarn or missed a loop. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that gets us the first bottom for our second visual round of the cluster puff stitches that were nesting inside one another. Now for the cluster that we've got going here, we've got our 5 front post doubles from the previous round. We are going to work a double crochet 5 together across all of those 5 stitches, okay? So you want to, again, these can tend to obscure your stitches, so make sure you pull it out off to the side so you can really see the top of your next stitches when you get started. So again, I do have a full tutorial for the double crochet 5 together that goes a little slower, shows you how to do it, explains things a little bit more, and I have that linked below for you. So I'm going to go through it kind of quickly here. So you're just going to work a half of a double crochet in the first stitch, in the second, and each subsequent stitch, all the way for your 5 stitches here. You're only ever doing that first pull through, and you should be left with 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 6. So you're going to have a top on your bottom now. So that is the first visual round of your puffy cluster thing. And then from there, you're going to work another bottom. So this is your round repeat. So you're going to do a bottom and a top, and you're just going to keep doing that all the way around. So now we're going to work 5 front post doubles around that double crochet again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to work a double crochet 5 together. So insert your hook into the first stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 2. That's a half formed double crochet. Do that for the next 4. Whoops. There we go. Forgot my yarn over first. Each time you do a new stitch, you're bringing up and adding another loop to the ones that are already on your hook. So again, you should have 6, yarn over, pull through all 6 loops. And just keep repeating all the way around. So now we've got another 5 front post doubles around the double crochet from the previous round. 3, 4, and 5. My little yarn ball is just rolling all around here. Sorry about that. Okay. And now we're ready for another double crochet 5 together. I keep forgetting my yarn over. There we go. And then pull through all 6 loops. So you're just going to keep doing that all the way around. When you get back around, you are going to slip stitch to the very first of those front post doubles that you made at the very beginning of the round to join it. Okay, so I'll see you back here in a few minutes. Okay, so I have just finished my second round of the 3-round repeat. And again, it's important to go back and count your stitches. So again, visually, if you had 32 stitches like me to start out with, you will have 8 bottoms and 8 tops all the way around. And, you know, if you started at a different number, just make sure it's, you know, that multiple of 4, and that's how many. Divide by 4 and from that first round, and that's how many of each that you're going to have all the way around. So it's also important, once again, because we have those 5 front post double crochets, to go through and make sure each of those bottoms has 5 of those front post double crochets in each of those clusters, because you'll need to make sure that you have the right number for the next round. It's less important counting them, because when you're doing the 5 together, the double crochet 5 together, you're already counting them as you do that. So that's just going to be 1 stitch really there. So, and with that, you are ready to move on to round 3. So once again, we're going to begin with a chain 2. And for this round, we are going to focus on putting tops on our remaining bottoms, and then setting up for following rounds and following pattern repeats by working a double crochet into the top of each of our double crochet 5 together stitches from the previous round. So we are ready to begin. We're going to double crochet 5 together to start. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yarn over, pull through all 6 loops. Now from here, you're going to chain 1, double crochet into the top of that double crochet 5 together from the previous round, and chain 1 again. So chain 1, double crochet into the, make sure you're finding the top of that stitch. It's kind of a longer loop there. Double crochet and chain 1. And then go ahead and repeat that same thing all the way around. So again, with the double crochet 5 together, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All together, chain 1, double crochet into the next, chain 1, and repeat. Just keep doing this all the way around, and I will meet you back at the end after you join to the very first double crochet of the round to close it. Right there. All right, so I have reached the end of my last round of the repeat. Just to show you really quickly, you will end on a chain stitch, and then you're going to join to the top of that double crochet 5 together that we started our round with. And you will notice, you might have to poke out some of those little puffs. They like to hide as you're working, but you can start to see that texture as it is developing. Push some of those out. And isn't it so pretty? So as you continue to work those nested little puffy cluster things, I don't know what else to call them, then you will get more of that texture that's so pretty. And depending on which pattern you're following, the way you end it is a little different depending on if you're working the beanie or the cowl, in order to close up these gaps between the double crochets of our last round. But if you can work the main repeat here, that's the hardest part. So I hope that that was helpful for you if you are busy working on either of those patterns. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or problems, leave those in the comments for me below, and I will do my best to answer you as soon as I can. Just a reminder that the cowl pattern and the beanie pattern are available for free on my blog. There are paid versions of both, and the cowl version actually has a couple of modifications in the pattern that you can make to work an ear warmer or a cup cozy if you're interested in that. So yeah, that's all I've got for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.